Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's upload we will be talking about a unusual pattern that will be occurring as we push into the next week. It will be bringing a lot of heat towards the west, but likewise a lot of cool weather towards the eastern half of the United States, especially kind of the south and the Midwest, and in fact some areas can be rather cold, simply just put, for July. And I will be going over in today's video the rain threat, thunderstorm threat. Notice the northeast is all sorts of colors, southeast with the tropical storm. At this point, I think maybe still a tropical storm Elsa, and a bit of flooding across the south, and of course the heat, as I mentioned. Before we do get into this, guys, if you do like weather-related content, I am a hobbyist. Hello, welcome to my channel. We have a weather community down here. People just love the weather, and we like talking about it. So if you like this type of stuff, watch the video and you like it, consider subscribing, consider liking the channel also, especially if you are a returning viewer. And if you have any comments or concerns, I get to most of them, so leave them down below, and hopefully I can answer most of them. Otherwise, let's start talking about this. So first off, looking at this map, the Weather Ready Nation map, notice there are a ton of colors we have going on and a ton of different, if you will, weather events. So first off, let's take a start off, kind of work our way east to west. Notice the northeast and portions of western or eastern Great Lakes, including Detroit, sorry about that, Indiana, Ohio. We have some flood advisories, severe thunderstorm warnings, severe thunderstorm watches. Again, not like the worst systems, right? These won't be a massive beast with huge hail, but you could see right there a flood advisory. They could drop quite a bit of heavy rain. They could have small hail. Notice that if you were to take a look at the flood advisory, I'm assuming probably already several inches have fallen. Yep, between 1 to 2 inches have already fallen. More is most likely on the way, and that's kind of repeating story through the northeast. Notice as you click on Connecticut, there are some storms just approaching Boston from the west. And again, notice that there is a severe thunderstorm warning. There's the radar view of that. Let's take a quick glance at the severe thunderstorm warning and see what it's about. Really nothing too extraordinary. 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and hail that is less than 7/5 or 7/10, 7.5 So again, it shouldn't be too bad, but definitely a powerful, a strong thunderstorm. I wouldn't say maybe a severe one. Seems pretty borderline, but nonetheless, be prepared for that. Notice the southeast, we have obviously the remnants and a still very well organization of Elsa, and notice that it's just pummeling lots of moisture into these areas. Savannah just getting on some of that. We just got it to leave Florida, so yeah, that's definitely on its way. Texas dealing with a lot of rain as well. Notice we have this band of just very, very rich moisture kind of pummeling into it. Doesn't get far. Notice San Antonio is high and dry, but the coastal areas are seeing quite a bit of rain, to say the least, and that will continue for the next several days. Some of those amounts could be pretty high. Elsewhere, some thunderstorms across the Midwest, rather lackluster thus far. If you were to take a look at Chicago, the Quad Cities, nothing too extraordinary, but definitely a chance for some storms and showers. So notice that they will be continued to kind of developing across this area. And then across the south, some flood advisories, but again, this cold front kind of stretches all the way to the New Mexico area with some more flood advisories you could see. And then the west, excessive heat warnings, watches. Very, very unfortunate. Again, they're dry and they are hot, extremely hot conditions. So wildfire season is looking pretty bad, unfortunately, this year. And I noticed we do have some excessive heat a watch right there. That's the watch. That's the warnings. So yeah, it's gonna keep expanding, this heat, and it's gonna keep nagging many folks. And notice in Montana we have another severe thunderstorm watch for severe thunderstorms, and we already have some forming. Look at that, Bozeman, I think it's Bozeman, Montana, already under, I think, a severe thunderstorm warning. So that's something to watch for. So as you just saw with those first few minutes, we already have a ton of stuff going on. And if you were to look at the radar, this may not look like anything special, but again, it doesn't look like that when you're looking at the whole U.S. Look at that. The Pennsylvania, we have some large clusters of showers, storms. I mean, definitely moisture-fueled, rich thunderstorms. They are going to be pummeling in many locations across Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, into New York, and there are those thunderstorms across the northeast. Notice, look at that. Kentucky, southern Indiana, also seeing some showers, less numerous, however. Obviously, as we get closer to that tropical storm, we see quite a bit of rainfall. Notice, look at that, into Georgia, South Carolina. It's spinning away. I know Jacksonville picked up some very, very decent amounts of rain from this. Notice that it's been seeing rain ever since, really, today in the morning, and then look at that. We got that very, very heavy rain starting around 1 to 2:30, and it just continued for a while. So again, this will continue. Look at that, Brunswick just getting absolutely hammered right now with very, very heavy rainfall. Again, probably, I would assume, some flooding, all of that bad stuff. And then notice Mississippi, Alabama, some showers. And look at this. This is an interesting setup right here, right off the coast of Texas. Just a massive cluster of storms that kind of came off the coast, really. But you can see it's been really falling mostly off of the coast. And you can see it's just kind of pummeling to the north. Corpus Christi got quite a bit of rain, but again, it's tough to say how much you've actually seen. Definitely the potential to see a lot, and then notice that rain continues to kind of pivot close to the shore, but extremely, again, buoyant air, and extremely just a very heavy rain potential right there, just off the coast. Notice some thunderstorms firing up across the southwest, nothing too significant. Missouri, Oklahoma there as well. And in the northwest, we have that severe thunderstorm watch. Some of these could be severe warned, and they will travel to the south and east into next coming days, and that's kind of what I talk about in the pattern in general, which was the video about. So let's take a quick glance first at the GFS. This is its temperature outlook. Let's see what it shows. Notice after today's cold front, the Midwest, this is pretty cool, and then we see a lot of that heat out ahead of that second system, which is producing that severe weather right now across Montana. It slides to the south, but the cool air retains itself, and has helped because of the cloud cover and the rain. And notice, we have a pretty darn cool outbreak right here. I mean, that's pretty cold for July. At the same time, we have some pretty warm temperatures for July, and that's obviously much worse. And the heat wave continues across the northwest. Maybe not to the same extent they've been having it, but dry and hot nonetheless. And then notice, look at those anomalies. Some of them, again, rather impressive. Almost 12 to potentially 16 degrees below average Celsius across the Midwest. This is into next week. Now this is into Tuesday. Again, this is now into Wednesday. We do see a resurgence of cool air pushing its way into Thursday of late next week. So still, the cool air maintains itself, but unfortunately so does the heat, and so does the current kind of pattern. That's not really good. Some areas will see way too much rain. Other areas will see no rain, and that's going to be the unfortunate thing. Now, notice towards the very end, this is one model. It only goes out to 252, hasn't loaded yet. We see some cooler up here, and it seems like it's willing to introduce that into the northwest, and that's a good sign. Let's take one model run back, where we have the full scale view of that, and notice it's already a different take at this time. The GFS here is signifying a different pattern than what it is with its newest model run. Hopefully this model run's more accurate, because look, there's quite a bit of cold air across the northwest. This model run does show it eventually, but you can see it's rather far out, and it keeps a kind of a similar pattern. But notice that a lot of this cool air is not as prevalent, and a lot of the heat just slides straight to the south and east into more of the plains, the Great Lakes, the northeast, and it does affect the northwest, yes. But notice at times there could be pockets of even right there, for example, like below average or at least normal temperatures, which would already be a relief. But unfortunately, if you were to take a look at the precipitation outlook, this is just kind of bad. Yeah, almost nothing. That is, again, very, very bad. Notice the east, the southeast, even the north, not bad. Decent amounts of rain. I wouldn't say anything amazing. A lot of these locations have already seen a bit too much rain, so that's not really the best thing. But notice the southwest also seeing some decent rains, so that's good. Texas, especially western Texas or western Oklahoma, drying out, but they saw quite a bit, especially Oklahoma City. So that's not necessarily going to be that bad. But again, this is just one model run. If you're to take a look at the newest one that goes out, well, I thought it would go out a bit further with the preset, but let's just take a glance at the one prior to that and just show you its differences. Notice that it does show similar trends, right? A bit drier right there across Texas, but look at that right there. A lot of more precip just to the south of Illinois, Michigan. The one previously showed it up further north. This one has it more filled in across Texas. So again, these models are kind of variable, and they do a lot of jumping around. But let's take a look at Canadian, a different model. Notice favoring similar areas, but again, it's a slightly different arrangement. it has a few more components that are a bit different. It keeps it more dry across, say, Montana, Minnesota, Wisconsin. It does only go out to 240, and these are some still rather impressive amounts for the next 240 hours, according to the Canadian. And look, it shows a lot right there across Texas, which could become a concern with that heavy, heavy rain. And in terms of the Canadian model and what it thinks in terms of temperature anomalies, let's take a glance. So this came out at noon today, the most updated version of it. Notice there's our cool air, keeps it stubborn, kind of like the GFS. It does show, unfortunately, that hot and dry air across the west. Again, some of these anomalies getting pretty strong, not off the charts like we saw, I think, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but definitely there. It does show a similar pattern, which is good. They're in agreement, and towards the end, the pattern does start changing. Now, how will it change? Will it be beneficial for anyone? That's tough to tell at this point. Let's take a look at its precip forecast, kind of its simulated precipitation run. Notice, there's our first storm that I was talking about yesterday. Takes that cold front and a lot of that tropical moisture energy with it. And notice, look at Corpus Christi area. Look at that precip. It continues just flowing into the same area over and over again for the next several days. So that could definitely be a flash flooding potential, if not a very, very significant rain event. Notice that across the Midwest, those thunderstorms occurring today across Montana, well, they're going to be accompanying most of the Midwest into this weekend. And notice as it slides into the Midwest, it forms, it kind of stalls out. Notice it's a cutoff low and takes its sweet old time, dumping quite a bit of rain, which is why the Canadian shows some very, very decent amounts of rain into Saturday and into Sunday across the Midwest. Again, if this was the July 4th weekend this week, it would have been much, much worse for many folks across the United States. Look at Sunday. That would have been much worse for a good chunk of the Midwest right there. But, you know, that's why last week it was pretty good. And look at that. It kind of just slows down, keeps producing rain, and finally drags away. And with that, it takes a lot of the cool air with it and brings in some warm air. But notice, look at that. More rains follow that. Again, another one starts forming. So the Canadian really, really keeps it active. And that's why it shows a lot of that precipitation. Now, you saw that the GFS showed similar amounts. That was a bit less further out. But let's take a look at its precipitation forecast. Notice there's our system into today, dragging off all that moisture. And then look at this. There's the GFS. Does that same thing. It stalls out that system, that storm into this weekend, but it does move it eventually, and a lot of precip goes with it, but it keeps it active. Look, wave after wave of rain across very similar locations, and that's gonna, again, keep it very wet. This only goes out to 276 hours, a bit more than what I showed you with the Canadian, but see, this is the thing. Its precipitation forecast, it's lagging behind. Let's just, I guess, take a look at its older model run. And I just want to show you that it shows very similar things. There's our first storm, second storm, and there's our continued rounds of extra additional precipitation. Well, now it's 384 hours with the older model run. But notice, again, rather wet and rather moist, to say the least. Now, if you're to take a look at the European model, which I haven't shown you yet, but let's take a glance at it. Notice that it would share a very similar pattern. We have that first storm, the first wave today, pulling away off the coast into the northeast and Atlantic Ocean. There's Elsa, and there's a lot of that activity. But look, there's our thunderstorms, same ones that are producing rain across Montana and that severe threat today. And they start developing cluster after cluster, extending through several states all the way into the deep south, all the way up to the upper plains, of very, several 100 miles. And then again, it stalls out, pivots to the north, kind of stalls out there as well, but eventually does pull away. But the European also keeps it active with wave after wave across very similar areas. I do want to mention across the southwest, notice the precipitation also has continued there, and potentially southern Arizona, maybe even California. So that would be very, very good news for those folks if that can materialize. And notice for the northeast, again, rain chances are also rather abundant. Let's take a look at this total accumulated precipitation forecast. Notice very, very good amounts for 240 hours out. That is not that much time. And look at Texas right there, 7 to 8 inches potentially additionally. Not good. Obviously, where the tropical storm tracks, quite a bit of rain. And even the Midwest, 4, 6, 7 inches. I mean, it's definitely possible. Northern Plains, hopefully they could get in on some more of this moisture. but it does not look too hopeful for you. In terms of the European models temperature outlook, which we were looking at the GFSs and Canadian earlier, and noticed that, remember that they agreed, right? Let's take a look at this one. Again, it shows a cooler air. It's a different map, so it may seem weaker, this cooler, but it's definitely there to the similar degree. The Canadian GFS showed it. Definitely a bit warmer for the west and southwest, I would say the European does. Look at that right there. Cool temperatures into this weekend and into next week. And it does start breaking the pattern now. Notice some heat moves in. It's rather the nights that are more cooler, or sorry, the days that are cooler. The nights are going to be warmer, and the intense heat moves away from the east and the west, or from the west, and moves further towards the east. But again, it's a bit tough to tell what exactly will happen. Now I just want to take a look at some of the high-res models outlining today's severe weather threat or the storm threat, and let's take a glance at that. And notice that into today, this is at around 7 o'clock. This is 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Notice the Great Lakes again, continued showers. Obviously, Tropical Storm Elsa moving towards South Carolina at this point. Heavy rain continuing across southern coastal Texas, and this continues into the overnight. Those storms moving into South Dakota by tomorrow in the morning, early, wee morning hours. This is, at this point, 2 to 3 o'clock. Notice northeast continued rain into Michigan as well. And this tropical storm reaches North Carolina by tomorrow early afternoon. And if you're to take a look at the RAP model, which is another high res that goes out very far and usually does a pretty good job, it shows very similar things, right? A lot of precipitation into the northeast. That severe weather kind of moving towards the south, into South Dakota again as tomorrow progresses. And look, that tropical storm potentially making it all the way into New York by late Thursday into early Friday. More continued rain across the south and the northeast, but that system pulls away finally, seemingly, by late Friday afternoon for most of the northeast. But we do have a second storm, and this one does look, again, pretty aggressive as well. So we'll just have to keep an eye on things, and yeah, as you can see, the precipitation chances are very high for the areas that will get impacted by a tropical storm. More high-res models I can show you, and their precipitation forecast. Notice quite a bit right there. That second system, and obviously that first one even. And then the NAM, I think I didn't show you yet. Notice very high amounts across certain locations. 4 inches right there shows 7 across the Midwest. Again, 5 some areas. And then the NAM, I could show you this one, HRV3, also a good model, and you can see it shows decent amounts, especially where that second wave starts developing. It only goes out to 48 hours. Northeast, also, again, look at that, potentially up to 8 inches. That tropical storm's help. Would not be too surprised to see some of those amounts. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all on the next episode. See ya. Bye.